Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, viewers. I'm Aulia Rahmi and welcome to Breaking News. We will provide you the real news, which is taken factually and actually. We will accompany you with the update news. Well, viewers, let's begin the news today. War in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say 10 humanitarian corridors to evacuate people from regions being besieged by Russian forces have been agreed for today, Saturday. The routes include one for civilians to escape from the devastated southern city of Mariupol. Russia is believed to have reorganized its military leadership in Ukraine, giving overall charge to General Alexander Dvornikov, who Western officials say has extensive experience of Russian operations in Syria. Meanwhile, President Zelensky has called for a firm global response to Friday's missile strike on a railway station in the eastern city of Kramatorsk, which killed 52 people. Russia denied it was blamed for the attack. They're trying to escape the conflict as Russia steps up its offensive in the east of Ukraine. People already packed onto this train in Kramatorsk in the hope of traveling to safety when the missile struck. What did we do to the Russians who deserve this? We are civilians, described by Ukraine as another war crime by Russia. As soon as the shelling ended, we ran here and saw a terrible sight. People were running, screaming, crying, praying. It was scary. Cars were exploding. There was panic everywhere. Nearby, the remains of a missile painted on it in the Russian words for the children. It's unclear whether it might have malfunctioned, whether it was shut down as it was heading for a different target. But Western officials believe it's likely it was a Russian missile fired indiscriminately.
Obviously, the targeting of civilians would certainly be a war crime, and we've already called a range of the actions we've seen to date a war crime, but we're going to be supporting efforts to investigate exactly what happened here.
Russia has denied any involvement, saying no missions were planned in the area at the time, but the Ukrainian president says it showed the need for greater international support for his country. Russia's war against our nation may end in victory for freedom much sooner than many in the world think. If Ukraine simply receives the weapons we have asked for, any delay in providing such weapons to Ukraine, any excuses can mean only one thing. Some politicians want to help the Russian leadership more than us Ukrainians. Equipment is being sent, such as tanks from the Caesar Republic, while Britain has promised more anti-aircraft and anti-tank missiles. New Russian advances in the east are expected sooner rather than later. In Kramatorsk, the human cause of the conflict is clear. The message from the Ukrainian government is that Russia will be held accountable. President Zelensky has also been talking to the CBC News in the United States following his visit to Budget and his address to the United Nations Security Council. Here's a little of what he had to say. What must the world understand? We are defending the ability of a person to live. In the modern world, they say we are defending Western values. And I always say, what are Western values? Someone who lives in the United States or Europe, do they not like children? Do they not want their children to go to the university? Do they not want their grandfather to live on 100 years? We have the same values. We are defending the right to live. I never thought this right was so costly. These are human values, so that Russia doesn't choose what we should do and how I'm using my rights. That right was given to me by God and my parents. What do you see in Budget? Death. Just death. Western officials say a Russian general with extensive experience in Syria has been put in charge of Moscow's operation in Ukraine. General Alexander Dvornikov has been given the job of improving coordination between Russia's forces. Commentators say they expect new offensives in the south and the east of Ukraine sooner rather than later. Then we will speak to our correspondent there, Emma Vardy. Interesting development that went on the Russian general being put in charge, and this sort of thing comes shortly after Russia saying that it's going to focus its effort on the east of Ukraine, and we saw its troops being pulled out earlier this week from the north.
That's right, that new general being put in charge of Moscow's operations in Ukraine. It said he's had extensive experience with Russia's operation in Syria, and it's being taken to mean really that Russian units want to work together better, because most Western analysts will say, look, Russia wasn't able to achieve its objectives in the early days of the conflict. It surrounded Kyiv but was never able to topple the Ukrainian government. It was never able to take the capital city, and Russian units suffered many losses. So it's expected that this general will be put in charge of making Russian units work together more cohesively on the ground. And we are expecting to see the Russian offensive stepping up in eastern Ukraine. And that is why for a couple of days now there's been serious warnings by Ukrainian officials telling people to evacuate, to escape from the Donbass region as soon as they can. And that is what was happening, of course, yesterday, with thousands of people waiting to evacuate to safety from that railway station. Thousands of people have been there for a couple of days fleeing the region when those missiles hit. So there were bound to be civilian casualties. It was a scene of devastation. And that is what the Ukrainian president is saying is, yes, more evidence of a Russian war crime, more evidence of Moscow deliberately targeting civilians. Of course, Russians deny this. They point the finger back at Ukraine, saying they were not responsible for this missile attack.
Well, viewers, that's all the news today. Thank you and goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.